Most kids go through rough experiences in their childhood and never really talk about it, either because they feel like no one will care or because they can't afford to. They can't afford to be vulnerable and fear that someone will use it against them. And this I will open up about stuff for the first time to pretty much anyone. Because no one wants to talk about how they've been treated and basically humiliated and disempowered in a situation that they couldn't control what was happening to them. As most of us know, the childhood really allows you to explore and find out about who you are. Growing up, I remember I was an okay kid. Happy, curious. In first grade, I remember hanging out with some friends I thought I could trust. And one day, one of these friends says, "Pass me that test." I remember telling him to chill because even at that age, I took my academics serious. I didn't want to get in trouble or anything like that. But he kept asking, he persisted, saying, "You better pass me that test or else." And all I wondered was, or else? Like, what is he going to do about it, And all of a sudden, these three friends of mine, or who I thought were friends, just pulled me down onto the desks. And the guy who asked me for my test just stabbed me with a pencil right here. And at that moment, I knew not everybody was your friend. And not everybody could be trusted. Of course, my parents were scared. And so during the summer, my mom looked at new schools for me to transfer to. After that altercation, I decided to just go home after school every day. Didn't really feel like being there anymore. So I hung out with neighborhood friends for only the same thing to happen. Where one day I remember we hung out in one of their backyards. And two of them just pushed me onto the ground and said, "Leave, you brown skin." So that was my summer. Coincidentally, the school I ended up going to was one that one of the kids who had pushed me went to, Disney. Here I had trouble adjusting. Most of the kids had known each other for, 4 years already. They were all significantly smarter than I was. But I stayed true to myself and I acted like who I was. Eventually I made new friends. But I remember my dad having his shift changed at work. So I had to start taking the school bus. And to best summarize what that was like, it went something like this. "Hey, what's up, Pinocchio? Gonna fly home, Dumbo? Yo, how you put your shirt on in the morning with that fat head?" Followed by me crying as soon as I got home, which is why I get defensive sometimes when people bring that up now. So that was my second grade. All of this really shaped me in who I would become. Because of this, I became really pessimistic and only saw the negatives in people. Though, like anyone, I hid it by smiling and acting nice. As I grew up, I realized a lot of things that I hadn't. The arguments my parents had, the fact that my father was never really in the picture unless he was required to because of some big school event. I also realized that not everyone wanted the best for you and acted nice. Oftentimes to make themselves feel better. So sometimes I would wonder, do people really want to get to know me? Or what is it that they want? What are they trying to gain? Which is why I've become reserved, because I've poisoned my mind with these thoughts that everyone is bad. What really changed me was when I found out what happened to someone I'd hung out with in 2015. I'd gone to a friend's house and we were chilling in the basement and one of his friends comes by. And we're just sitting there sharing stories, playing games, drawing on our sleeping friend's face. He's cool dude, he's funny. Fast forward 2016, and I see my friend's Facebook post saying, "Rest in peace to a real one." He killed himself. The friend of mine said probably because family issues or personal demons he was struggling with. So you never really truly know what's going on behind a person. And at that moment I realized that it wasn't good to bottle up how I felt. Though I was scared, I realized it was best to talk to others about how I felt and to be more open. And I struggle to do it sometimes, and it makes me miserable when I do. But I make sure to open up to friends I can trust. Oftentimes we measure ourselves by our intelligence and appearances, but never by our emotional state. We never take the time to ask ourselves how we're feeling, but focus on what we can do to make others like us. I don't want to be defined by my fears and insecurities, but rather by what I could be. The way in which this connects to the brief and wondrous life of Oscar Wilde and the house on Mango Street is that it pulls from being a child/teen in a new environment, having to relearn and almost conform to those around you. It is like the immigrant's dream to work to better themselves and be better than what their parents had hoped them to be. As seen in the early chapters of the brief and wondrous life of Oscar Wilde, tells us, "I want the life that I used to see when I watched Big Blue Marble as a kid, the life that drove me to make pen pals and to take atlases home from school." Two quotes from the house on Mango Street further this. The first being, "You want a friend?" she says. "Okay, I'll be your friend, but only till next Tuesday." And, "If you give me $5, I will be your friend forever." That's what the little one tells me. Where again, everyone just wants a friend, so they feel accepted and have someone they can open up to. My truth is that our past doesn't define us. Through all the obstacles, if you push hard enough, you can redefine yourself and live the life you choose to lead.